Hi there. I am the Philosopher Whisper. It's really weird saying that out loud, by the way. And I thought I'd make another video for you guys. I've only made one video and received a very nice message of encouragement on it. And I thought I would give it another shot. So here we go. But wasn't really sure what I should talk about. I don't really have that many interesting hobbies, and well, at least not that many relaxing hobbies. So I figured I would talk about something that I know a lot about, that I care about. And so today I'm going to talk to you about Dungeons and Dragons. Oh yeah. I've played this for years, and aside from this video being probably the nerdiest thing you'll do today, hopefully it's educational, and if I do a good job, you might want to play it. And I hope you do. It's one of the most fun exercises of the imagination that I've ever done. And I know there's such a culture behind it. It's just it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to show you some of the tools that you use to play it, some of the rules, and hope you guys like it. So enjoy. So Dungeons and Dragons, which is something that I'm sure you've probably heard of before, is a role-playing game. It's been around for about, I think, something like 40 years almost. And it's shown up a lot in pop culture. Recently, it actually just came out with a new edition. It's all over television and the internet, and all around it's a lot of fun to play. The rules can be pretty dense at times, and it's kind of hard to pick up and play it if you've never had experience with it before, or if you're not with a group of people that know what they're doing. So hopefully I can give you like an intro, a crash course into Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs in general. So probably the most important thing you need to play D&D and most RPGs is a set of dice. These are mine. I've got so many dice, it's not even funny. I've just accrued billions of them over the years, and somehow I can never find them when I need them. But most dice sets have 7 dice. I'll just put one together for you right here. Each dice corresponds to a different thing in the game, which is pretty unique for each situation. I'll explain that later. But the most iconic of all the dice is probably the D20. D meaning dice, and 20 because it's 20-sided. I can't remember the name of the shape that this is, but it's an icehedron or something. I don't know. But it shows up a lot. It's kind of an icon for geeks, pretty much. But you use dice in D&D and pretty much any RPG to determine the outcome of events. Usually you have skills or actions that correspond with dice rolls or pluses to dice rolls, things that you'll add to a dice roll. And to accomplish something, you'll need to meet a certain number. Like if the number to meet is 15 to strike something with a sword, you would roll the dice, specifically this dice in D&D at least, and add any additional points you might have from your character, which I'll get into that later, to the total, and then See if you meet the number necessary to hit an enemy. Or a friendly person. That happens too. And I would roll it, but I don't know how loud it's going to be. But anyway, I'll roll it. Let's see what happens. Alright, 7. I never get 20s. 20s are the highest number on the die and represent what's called a critical hit. And a critical hit is regardless of how difficult something is. If you roll a 20, it is a guaranteed success. So even if the difficulty is 100 billion, and the likelihood of a dice and any additional points you have from your character, meeting that is just infinitely small. You roll a 20, you get it. And similarly, if you roll a 1, it's called a critical fail. Doesn't matter how awesome you are. If you have plus 8 billion from your character, and the difficulty of an action is 5, if you roll a 1, you fail. That happens to me a lot. But, and this is the 7 dice right here. Dice, die is already plural. Get it together, man. Yeah, these are the most common dice, a typical set. You've got the smallest, usually being, it's called a D4. And you guessed it, it's 4-sided. Cool little triangle shape. The next one, I believe, is the D6, which you've seen this one before. This is probably the most dice-like dice. Then you have the, was it D8, I believe? Yeah. And this one's got an interesting shape. They all do. Then, of course, there's the 2 10-sided dice. And there's 2 of them for a reason. This is a standard 10-sided dice. It just has 10 numbers. But this is a percentage dice. It starts at 0 and only goes to 9, or 90 at least. And some challenges within the game or within a situation might require you to meet a certain percentage for success. And you would roll both these die at the same time, and you would get a percentage. So 99 is the highest possible, I guess. Or maybe zeros, I don't know. It very rarely happens, but you roll these 2 together to get percentages. Then you have the D12. This gets confused with the D20 quite a bit, just because it's similar in shape. And you'll go to grab this and get laughed at. But that one's a weird shape as well. Pentagons. And then finally back to the D20. But anyway, like I said, I've got 8 billion of these things. They're rather loud. Sorry if that's... I didn't want to show you. Everyone's got, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have interesting bags or things that they keep their dice in. I've got one. It's Cthulhu. I keep my dice in the old god of... I don't even know what he's an old god of. He's just an old god. He's grumpy. A friend gave me this for my birthday, but it's a dice bag. It's got little tendrils. He's even got little wings. But he is the ruler of all existence, and he might just be holding my dice now, but it's just for now. He's even got this grumpy eyebrow thing. I love this bag. Anyway, that's Cthulhu. But Dungeons and Dragons, like most RPGs, have editions, different iterations that have of the rules that have been changed or reviewed over the years. And this is the 5th one since the game came out. It's been through probably more than that, but officially this is the 5th edition of the game, and it's totally different rules. And they're all very nice books. They contain all the rules, how to make a character, and how a player plays the game, and there's a lot of really cool art. like I said, it can be pretty dense. It's pretty unlikely that during playing you'll use all of this, the whole book that is, but it's necessary to have it just in case you have to reference something. But some of the art is just amazing. There's also books for other parts of the game. This is the player's handbook, like I said. The player's handbook. There's also a monster manual that contains just the bestiary of monsters that can be in the worlds that you create when you play, or rather, a dungeon master creates when you play. There's also the Dungeon Master Guide, which is exclusively for the Dungeon Master, who's the person that runs the games when you play. Typically, the Dungeon Master will be the Dungeon Master throughout the whole time you play. Each time you play is called as a session, and then several sessions over time is called a campaign, as long as it pertains to the same story. Sorry if I have to cut, the camera cuts out every 12 minutes or so. Have not fixed that yet. But yeah, everything that a player needs to create a character, to play the character, to understand the game is in this book. If you ever want to play D&D, this is the book that you need. At least if you want to play this version of D&D, the newest one. And that brings me to what a character looks like. These are called character sheets. Pretty inventive, I know. This is my character. His name is Marco Barsavi, and he's a rogue, which is a kind of like a thief, a sulking burglar of sorts. But this is really where I can explain the rules the best, because it's all right there in front of me. And I'll just start at the top. You have a character's name that you obviously make yourself, or you can pull it from something else. This is a bit inspired from a book series that I like. And part of a character's components are a class, a race, an alignment, which is, I'll explain that in a second, an age, an appearance, motivations, equipment, things like armor and weapons and things that you have on you, food, magic that they use, skills that they possess, and these are all contained on this sheet. Well, there's usually more than one, but for the purposes of this video and your education, I will keep it at just one. Again, the game can be a bit complex at times. But for starters, Marco here is a human rogue. His alignment is chaotic neutral, which sounds a bit odd, but I can explain that. There's three qualifiers. I'm not really sure what the term is. Three base alignments. You have good, neutral, and evil. And within those three alignments, there are three sub-alignments called lawful, true, and chaotic. And pretty much everyone you can think of, real or not real, fictional or just anyone, will fit one of those 9 possible combinations. You have lawful good, true good, or also known as neutral good, but that's confusing because there's neutral as its own alignment in and of itself. So lawful good, true good, and chaotic good, and the same goes for neutral and evil. Someone who is lawful good might be someone like Batman, who abides by not just the law, could be a personal law. They have rules that they conduct their lives by. And good meaning their interests are sincere for others, perhaps for a religious purpose or something like that. A chaotic character would be somebody who is an idealist, maybe. A chaotic good character at least. Somebody who's an idealist who doesn't really value rules and might view them as something that stands in their way between making a real good difference in the world. And they don't really have that strict sense of morality that a lawful good character might. But Marco here is chaotic neutral. He's out for himself, and more importantly, he is very against rules, established rules. He's a bit of a thief and a charlatan. He has some core beliefs, but they're very flexible. But over here, another component of characters, these numbers you see are something called attributes. They might be called something else in other RPGs or games, but you've probably seen a mechanic like this elsewhere. Attributes are used to determine different characteristics of a character: physical attributes, mental attributes, social attributes sometimes. In this version of D&D, and most of them, but specifically this one, there is strength, so pretty self-explanatory how brawny somebody is, their ability to bend a proverbial metal bar and punch bad guys or whatever. You have dexterity, which is how agile or how quick somebody is. I haven't really seen it used to describe much more than that. How fast somebody is capable of being. Their finesse. This one is constitution, and that one is most likely like endurance, or somebody's physical stature, how much of a hit they can take, or how long they could stay out in the cold, something like that. This one is intelligence. Again, pretty self-explanatory. How smart somebody is. Usually this ties with somebody's ability to use magic. It's one of them, at least. A wizard would be really smart, but a big, dumb ogre probably would not. Then you have wisdom. Wisdom is how learned somebody is. You can be exceptionally wise, but not very intelligent. Maybe a lot of personal experience, or you're good at perceiving situations, or maybe you have an affinity for nature or people. That's usually high wisdom, also used for magic. And then finally we have charisma. And that's not as self-explanatory. It's not just a representation of somebody's physical attributes. Charisma is more of a representation of somebody's presence, somebody's ability to interact, their ability to be diplomatic or deceptive. In Marco's case, he's a very handsome fellow, but he's also very deceptive. He likes tricking people, taking advantage of them with his wit and his charm. You also have things like skills. These are things that your attributes affect. Things like acrobatics, history knowledge, investigation, nature, perception, sleight of hand, stealth. And these will all correlate. Each skill correlates with an attribute. So the higher you are in a given attribute when you make your character, the more it will affect the skills that you choose. So Marco, being a rogue with decent dexterity, which you'd expect for a crafty thief. Has great, excellent sleight of hand. And that big dumb ogre might have a lot of strength, a lot of constitution, probably excellent athletics, but probably not so good at insight or history or things of that nature. Then, of course, you have things like hit points. And hit points represent how much health, how much life force your character has. You don't want these getting too low. You can actually see I have 3 HP left. I think the last time I played, I did something really stupid. And the Dungeon Master decided to punish me for it. So I ended up getting quite low. But yeah, more of the details of Dungeons & Dragons kind of comes about whenever you actually play, which usually involves multiple people, something like 4 or 5 people is the average, and a Dungeon Master, all around a table with their own character sheets. Usually each person only has one. But the Dungeon Master will create a world for you, or an established world, and he'll describe scenarios, and he'll play all the people in the story that you encounter that isn't a character sitting around the table. Those are all the people that the Dungeon Master plays are called NPCs, non-player characters. And a character like Marco here is a player character, a PC. And the Dungeon Master's job is not to kill you, or it's not the players versus the Dungeon Master. It's more of the Dungeon Master's duty to tell a story, or let you, as the player, tell a story with your fellow players. It's very collaborative in its nature, and really a good exercise of the mind. You get to pretend to be a rogue like Marco, and that big dumb ogre if you so choose. And there are limitations. Obviously there's a rule book, but the rules are pretty flexible. The really only limitation is really how you choose to play, and the characters that you make can be completely unique. So yeah, that's D&D in a nutshell. I probably missed quite a bit, but I really recommend, if you ever have the opportunity, to give it a try. It's a lot of fun. And I was offered a seat at a table to play when I was 15, I think, 15 or 16. And I had always thought of this as kind of a silly game that's talked about in the 80s, the 90s. And I was kind of reluctant, but when I sat down, I've made a lot of really close friends with this, and it's just a blast to play. I've played it nearly every week since then, so anyway, I hope you guys liked the video. If you have any recommendations or anything else that you'd like me to talk about, or let me know. I don't, like I said, have many interesting hobbies, so eventually I will run out of things related to D&D to talk about. Anyway, hope you guys liked it. Thanks for watching.